In my previous life, I exhausted every means to marry the crown prince, only to be rejected by him and meet a tragic end. Reborn. I resolved to seek a worthy partner anew. The newly crowned top scholar possessed extraordinary brilliance. General Yan excelled in both military and literary arts. The crown prince of Yongping was a paragon of talent and grace. On the day the new emperor ascended the throne, the Empress Dowager petitioned for a royal favor on my behalf. I bowed deeply. "I beseech your majesty to grant my daughter a marriage." A sudden crash echoed, plunging the hall into deathly silence. Slowly lifting my head, I saw the new emperor's eyes filled with malice. The jade cup in his palm shattered completely, blood flowing freely. Incense smoke swirled throughout the room. I slowly opened my eyes from the haze, my head feeling exceptionally heavy. Before me lay a brocade canopy embroidered with mandarin ducks, flickering red candles. Anne, lying still beside me, his robes half open, his chest exposed the crown prince, and at that moment, equally scantily clad, was myself. A chill shot through me, spotting the crimson belly band hanging by the bedhead. My heart trembled violently. I snatched it up, pulled it on, then scrambled off the bed. In my panic, I gathered the scattered garments from the floor, threw them over myself, and bolted out the door. Fleeing in disarray, the palace banquet had just ended, and the crowd was dispersing. Clutching my garments, I darted from corner to corner, finally finding a secluded, deserted spot. I hid in the shadows. My heart pounded like thunder, my breath still ragged. Hastily, I pulled my robes into place, straightened the crooked hairpin, and smoothed my disheveled hair. I took several deep breaths, striving to steady myself, gradually calming my racing thoughts. Now, one undeniable truth stood before me. I had been reborn, and that scene just now, it was precisely what I had meticulously orchestrated in my previous life. The entire capital knew that I, the eldest daughter of the Prime Minister's household, had adored Crown Prince Songlan since childhood. I pursued him relentlessly, turning a blind eye to the affections and admiration of others. I spared no effort to win Songlan's favor, to capture his attention, dreaming of marrying him and becoming his crown princess. But heaven does not always grant human wishes. The more I schemed to enter Songlan's heart, the colder and more distant he grew toward me. Yet I possessed an unyielding spirit, one that ultimately led me to lose my mind. At others' urging, I committed an utterly absurd act. During the palace banquet, I had someone secretly place a sleeping potion in a side hall. Then, bribing palace attendants, I had the drunken Songlan carried there and made it appear as though we shared the same bed. Thus, when Songlan awoke, he would believe he had lost his virtue in his drunken stupor, spent a night of passion with me, and could never let me go. I believed my scheme was flawless, successfully forcing Songlan to marry me as crown princess. Little did I know, he found my scheming cunning and my methods despicable, his heart already filled with disgust toward me. After he ascended the throne, though I held the exalted title of empress, I received no imperial favor. In that silent, deep palace, I grew despondent and lonely, ultimately fading away in solitude. Thinking of this, a heavy stone seemed to press down on my chest, making it hard to breathe. All the grievances, resentments, desolation, and sorrows of my past life surged back. I clenched my fists. This lifetime, I would not repeat the same mistakes. To hell with Songlani, don't want him anymore. My head still throbbed from the effects of that drugged potion. Yet I felt profound relief. Thankfully, I slipped away in time this lifetime, avoiding discovery the next day. Otherwise, the scandal would have spread throughout the city, spiraling into an irreparable disaster. I exhaled deeply, about to step outside, when another complication arose. My personal guard was missing. He must have been left behind in that side hall earlier, forgotten in the rush. But I couldn't risk going back now. If someone saw me, or if Songlan happened to wake up, It would be impossible to explain. Distracted and flustered, I walked toward the exit only to encounter a man standing beneath the eaves not far away, gazing at me from afar, dressed in a crimson robe. He possessed an unparalleled elegance. It was none other than Pei Qi, the emperor's current favorite and the newly crowned top scholar of the imperial examinations. Miss Qin. He approached me, radiating gentle refinement. I curtsied slightly. Minister Pei. Pei Qi now served as a junior scholar in the Hanlin Academy, lecturing the emperor himself. His influence in court was immense, and everyone predicted he would one day become chancellor. His gaze was gentle as he looked at me, still not returning this late. I felt inexplicably uneasy and made up an excuse. I was chatting with some sisters and lost track of time. I'll be heading back now. I see. He nodded and added, I happen to be leaving the palace myself. Might I escort Miss Qin back to your residence? I knew Pei Qi harbored feelings for me, whether out of self-interest or genuine affection. In my previous life, he had repeatedly used the excuse of being on the same route to insist on accompanying me. Each time, I had politely declined. As the daughter of the Prime Minister, renowned since childhood for my exceptional beauty that captivated the capital, I had countless admirers. Among them were men of noble lineage, men of extraordinary talent, and those skilled in both civil and military arts. Yet I turned them all away. My heart was set solely on Song Lan. Looking back now, it was as if my mind had been clouded by pig fat. Utterly foolish. This lifetime, I shall choose a worthy husband for myself, so as not to squander my youth and waste my life. Very well, then. Thank you, Minister Pei. I curved my lips into a smile as radiant as spring blossoms. Pei Qi and I chatted and laughed all the way back to the mansion. Father saw us and was overjoyed. After everyone had left, he took my hand and whispered, This Pei Zhuangyuan is someone I hold in very high regard. Why not give it a try with him, daughter? He's far better than that good-for-nothing crown prince. Mother passed away early, and father doted on me, his only daughter, with boundless affection. He saw how Song Lan treated me with indifference and disliked him for it, often urging me to choose someone else. Yet in my past life, I stubbornly refused his warnings, set on marrying Song Lan instead only to meet a tragic end. Now, seeing my silence, father thought I was angry at his criticism of Song Lan. He continued, My dear daughter, don't be upset. Father didn't mean to say your judgment is poor. It's just that a young lady should find a husband who cherishes and loves her. I picked up his words and replied, Father speaks wisely. Your daughter also finds Pei Zhuangyuan quite suitably a worthy candidate for a husband. When these words fell, father stared at me, his face frozen in disbelief. His jaw nearly dropped in shock. Ever since losing the forbidden dance, my heart remained restless. My nightmares were filled with scenes of Song Lan wielding that forbidden dance to humiliate me in every way. Under the pure, bright moonlight, I danced to the song, my sleeves fluttering, my moon-white skirt billowing. Your Majesty, this dance. This servant dances only for you. I curtsied gracefully, but Song Lan caught me, lifting my chin to meet his deep, ocean-like gaze. He swept me into his arms and carried me into the hall, tossing me onto the bed. Before I could react, a sudden chill touched my ankle as he fastened the smooth, round jade pendant there. My empress, you truly possess such cunning and skill. Come, please me. He leaned down, claiming my lips, pinned beneath him. My ankles swayed, the jade pendants clinking together. Their delicate chimes mingled with my low whimpers, sounding especially crisp. Grief, resentment, and humiliation enveloped me completely. Enough. Enough. I jolted awake from the dream, tears already soaking the brocade pillow. That dream, it wasn't an illusion, but something that had truly happened in my past life. Only back then. The thing Song Lan hung on my ankle was a string of silver bells. He despised my cunning nature, so he devised this method to humiliate me. Songlan's intense hatred for schemers stemmed from his birth mother, consort In, who had perished in a witchcraft scandal fueled by palace intrigue. From the very beginning, my scheme to spend that absurd night with him had already crossed his boundaries. All my subsequent deliberate attempts to curry favor and ingratiate myself only deepened his distaste and loathing for me. I had always longed to rediscover that forbidden path. And yet, the moment I saw it again, it was at the 100 Flowers banquet hosted by the Empress, on Songlan's cloud brocade sash. This sight stunned me so profoundly that I couldn't help but stare for a long while. Only when I sensed Songlan's suspicion did I hastily avert my gaze. The Empress was my own aunt, who had cherished me since childhood. Knowing of my affection for Songlan, she had often aided me. My marriage to him in my previous life was largely due to her scheming behind the scenes. During the banquet, my aunt admonished Songlan, "My son, the sky is clear and the air crisp today. After the meal, why not accompany your cousin for a stroll in the imperial garden?" "Yes, mother." Songlan was dutiful, rarely refusing his aunt's requests. But she didn't know that in this life, I no longer wished to have anything to do with him. I only regretted not having the chance to explain this to her. She had already kindly done me a disservice. After lunch, everyone strolled through the imperial garden, admiring the flowers and gathering in groups to play. Songlan and I walked together, enduring the pointed stares that followed us like needles in my back and a fishbone stuck in my throat. The silence stretched thick and heavy. When we reached a secluded spot, Songlan suddenly asked, "Was it you that night?" As he spoke, his jade-like, slender fingers lightly brushed the jade pendant at my waist. I startled and denied it outright. "No, it wasn't me. I haven't even mentioned that night." "Yet you've already made up your mind." Songlan's eyes were pitch black and unfathomable, and I shivered involuntarily, realizing I'd fallen into his trap. Damn it, deliberately trying to draw me out. Being around someone like this was torture. Every moment felt like agony. I hesitated before speaking. "Cousin." He raised an eyebrow slightly. "Stealing myself," I said. "Actually, it's fine if you don't accompany me." Songlan halted, turning to look at me. "Then where do you wish to go?" I glanced around, spotting the dashing figure on the archery range in the distance. I pointed. "There." He looked puzzled. "You want to see Yen Sun?" "Yes. You may return on your own." "Cousin." I'll explain to Aunt myself. I hurriedly dropped the line, lifted my skirt, and dashed toward Yen Sun, completely unaware. Behind me, Songlan's gaze followed me, gradually deepening into a somber shade. At the archery range, Yen Sun's arrows never missed their mark, drawing the loudest cheers. I approached from behind just as the young general drew his bow. With fluid, seamless motions, he released several arrows in quick succession, each striking the bullseye. I couldn't help but clap in admiration. "Excellent." My applause drew Yen Sun's attention. The clear-eyed, graceful youth glanced at me, surprise flickering in his gaze. "Miss Chin." He set down his bow and arrows, parted the crowd, and walked toward me. "Why are you here?" His eyes shone brightly, filled with fervent sincerity. I knew Yen Sun liked me. Back when I served as a princess tutor at the academy, he was just beginning to experience love. He had once pursued me with passionate zeal, but all he ever received was my icy rejection. In my previous life, after I married Songlan, he had gone to the frontier in despair and never returned to the capital. Now, I must carefully choose a husband. Yen Sun is actually a reliable candidate. I smiled. "I saw you shooting arrows from afar and felt like coming over to watch." Seeing my friendly demeanor, Yen Sun's face lit up with delight. "If Miss Chin is interested in archery, I could teach you." In the past, I was utterly devoted to Songlan, adopting an attitude of complete disinterest toward other men. I always kept them at arm's length. Looking back now, it seems rather laughable. I could have spent more time with others, learning their personalities and temperaments. choosing the most suitable match before discussing marriage. I readily agreed. Very well. You teach me archery, and I'll reward you. It's settled. After that day, I never sought out Songwon again. Arranged by my father, Pei Zhuangyuan would occasionally come to the mansion to teach me poetry and literature, and I would listen to his lectures in my boudoir. Yensun often came to invite me out for horseback riding and archery, and I would gladly go. Then there was Wei Ling, the strikingly handsome heir to the Yondon Marquis. After somehow learning of my disillusionment with the crown prince, he began sending daily invitations, urging me to join him on outings to admire spring scenery, flowers, and water. Thus, I lived my days in leisurely contentment, utterly fulfilled. Had I not encountered Songwon by chance in the Empress Palace, I fear I might have forgotten him entirely. Your Highness, the Crown Prince. I rose to pay my respects according to etiquette. Songwon looked at me, his eyes frosted over as if I had somehow offended him. I had no intention of lingering here, so I said to the Empress, Auntie, I recall having matters to attend to at home today. I shall take my leave. Very well. Shall I have my son escort you? The Empress intended for Songwon to see me off. No. There's no need to trouble my cousin. I shook my head vigorously, turning hastily to leave, but Songwon blocked my path. Dressed today in a water blue brocade robe, his figure seemed all the more like a rare orchid or jade tree. Leaning slightly forward, his narrow phoenix eyes studied me, deep and serene. Since when, cousin, have you begun avoiding me as if I were venomous? I didn't want Songwon to escort me, yet he insisted on seeing me off. I wished not to speak with him, yet he kept talking. Not at all like the distant man of before. I hear you've been quite busy these past few days. I lowered my head, responding faintly, refusing to utter another word. Songwon persisted, pressing further. Busy with what? My gaze fell upon the two green-curtained carriages waiting at the palace gates, and I quickened my pace. No need for my cousin's concern. Before entering the palace today, Pei Qi had already agreed to accompany me on the way. Humph. A low, cold laugh escaped him as he seized my wrist. I turned to meet Songlan's mocking gaze, busy flitting between men, playing both sides, finding endless amusement in it. Furious, I argued back. Your Highness, watch your words. Minister Pei is now my tutor. General Yen teaches me horsemanship and archery. Crown Prince Wei invites me on outings. My interactions with these gentlemen have never crossed any boundaries. What is wrong with that? Songwon must have lost his mind. That day, he actually declared in public, I too can teach you poetry and literature, instruct you in horsemanship and archery, and accompany you on outings. Why not join me? I was speechless, frozen in place for a long moment before hurrying away. It was like fleeing in disarray. After that day, I avoided Songwon even more. Each time I entered the palace, I deliberately steered clear of places he might go. At court banquets, I scrambled to sit as far from him as possible, out of his sight. Even when visiting the Empress quarters, I would deliberately inquire whether Songwon would be present that day. My aunt remained unaware of my current feelings, and I could not bring myself to explain them to her. After all, she had always been the one most eager for me to marry Songwon. I knew her motives were self-serving. She wanted me to marry Songwon so that when he ascended the throne, the Empress would still be from the Qin family. This would cement the Qin clan's power, ensuring its enduring prosperity. That's why she had pushed so hard to bring us together, strategizing for me and devising ways to win Songlan's favor. In my previous life, it was also at her urging that I took such a reckless risk and committed that absurd act. Looking back on it now, I sense something fishy about the entire affair. Songwon is no careless man. How could he have fallen so easily into my trap? Perhaps my aunt's hand was at work behind the scenes. Now, pointing to a box of pastries on the table, my aunt smiled and said to me, "You err. It's been a long time since you visited your cousin. This box of sweets was specially made for him by my order all his favorite treats. Please deliver them for me. In the past, I would have gladly accepted, happily delivering the pastries. But now, I simply couldn't bring myself to do it. I lowered my head, stammering, "Auntie, I don't feel like going today." Unexpectedly, this drew a sharp rebuke from her. "You error. What has gotten into you? Has your foolish father truly clouded your judgment so much that you'd abandon such a promising future?" I bit my lip and remained silent. She continued, pleading earnestly, "Your aunt has always taught you that as a woman of the Chin family, you must prioritize the greater good and the welfare of our clan above all else. Not getting bogged down by trivial matters. You are destined to be the empress who guides the empire. How can you abandon the crown prince over a few setbacks and instead consort with other men?" I knelt with a thud. "Aunt, when have I ever consorted with other men? If my cousin doesn't love me, I should move on and find a worthy husband. Why insist on clinging to one tree until I waste my entire life?" My aunt was furious. "What nonsense about clinging to one tree? That must be what your good-for-nothing father taught you. In planning for your future, trying to secure a bright path for you. Why won't you listen?" I stood my ground, neither humble nor arrogant, arguing my case with reason. "Aunt, forced fruit never tastes sweet, even if I married my cousin and became empress. Spending my days lonely and isolated in the palaces, that what you wish to see?" You aunt fell silent. She knew my words held truth. In my past life, though crowned empress, I received no favor or reward. Song Lan ignored me utterly, treating me as if I were deposed. The entire harem mocked me, stabbing me in the back. They said I'd lost more than I gained, that my desperate quest for favor ended in emptiness. Those days were unbearable to recall. The mere thought of it still leaves me breathless. "Your Highness." The Crown Prince. A maid encountered the Crown Prince at the doorway and hurriedly knelt to greet him. Startled, I turned to look. Song Lan had arrived unnoticed, his jet black hair adorned with a jade crown, his brocaded robe trailing behind him. He stood at the threshold without entering, his gaze fixed on me, complex and profound. "My son, when did you arrive?" My aunt was equally startled, asking him this, fearing he might have overheard our earlier conversation. "Just now." Song Lan stepped inside, quietly helping me up. "What's wrong?" "Cousin, why are you kneeling?" I rose, shaking my head. "Nothing. I was just speaking my mind with aunt." Song Lan spread his sleeves and sat down. My aunt signaled with her eyes for me to serve him tea, but I didn't move. Today, I was determined to pretend I didn't see him, with no other option. My aunt instructed a maid to serve Song Lan his tea. The maid presented the teacup. Song Lan took a light sip, his phoenix-like eyes glancing sideways at me. "This tea is bitter and astringent. It lacks the sweet richness of the tea my cousin brews." The maid, terrified, knelt on the floor. "This servant has failed in her duties. I beg your Highness the Crown Prince to forgive me." "Clumsy thing. Get out of here." Aunt snapped, then turned her gaze back to me. "You err. It seems your cousin still prefers your tea most, with his busy official duties. Why not brew him a cup quickly to ease his fatigue?" With my aunt speaking publicly, I couldn't refuse her face. I rose to brew the tea. I presented the cup. Song Lan drank it in one gulp, his expression shifting. He held his breath for a long moment before speaking. "Today's tea tastes quite different from usual." "Indeed. I simply added a bit more bitter tea leaves. Let's see if he'll still want my tea in the future." After bidding farewell to my aunt, I left Fini Palace without looking back. Song Lan called out to me, in the melting golden afterglow. He walked step by step toward me. His face was jade-like, yet his expression was dark and sullen. Suddenly, he gave a cold laugh and said to me, "Have you truly resolved to sever all ties with this sovereign?" I feigned ignorance. "What are your Highness implying?" Song Lan replied, Adding ingredients to today's tea is one thing. But days ago, when you and Wei Ling were by the Xinshu River, participating in the floating cup ceremony, I was there too. Yet you pretended not to see me and turned away. Is that not so? I flatly denied it. Your Highness misunderstands. I truly did not see you. Yu Songlan was so flustered he stumbled over his words. After a moment, he gave a self-deprecating chuckle and said, I know you're sulking, but sulking should have its limits. Cousin, this play hard to get tactics if overused. It will backfire. He really was full of himself, though I despised him inwardly. My expression remained compliant. My cousin overstates the case. Yuer would never dare. Only then did Songlan's expression soften slightly. Why wouldn't you dare? I see you're quite bold. He unfastened the jade pendant from his waist and handed it to me. Keep it safe. Don't lose it next time. It was the very one ID left behind in the side hall. Before I could deny it, he turned and walked away, leaving behind a final remark. Also, I overheard your conversation with your aunt earlier. My recent actions had all been interpreted by Songlan as a deliberate ploy to play hard to get. How utterly arrogant of him. I carried the necklace back to the mansion and tossed it carelessly onto the grass. But upon reflection, it wasn't surprising. The Songlan of today was still the crown prince, wise beyond measure, yet ultimately lacking in composure. What truly transformed him into an emperor whose emotions remained hidden behind a stoic facade was the incident at the hunting grounds. The emperor was assassinated overnight. Songlan assumed the throne in the midst of crisis, presided over the great Ming palace, commanded the 3 armies, quelled the rebellion, and purged the court. This period of history is known as the Guangxi incident. Now, counting the days, it seems, the time for the Guangxi autumn hunt is drawing near. Each year, the imperial family held the autumn hunt at the Guangxi hunting grounds. This year was no exception. Officials of all ranks from the capital, princes, nobles, and their families all accompanied the imperial procession to Mount Guangxi. The journey was marked by a vast procession of carriages and horses, a truly magnificent sight. During the hunt, everyone resided in the imperial retreat on Mount Guangxi. The palace grounds were vast, adorned with carved beams and jade pillars, artificial hills and white ponds, winding corridors and bridges a new vista at every turn. Beyond the palace walls lay an even more expansive landscape. As far as the eye could see, endless grasslands stretched toward the horizon. A sea of green as far as the eye could see. Yet the most distinctive sight of all was Wei Ling. Wherever he went, he drew crowds of young women, truly living up to the saying, rocks piled like jade, pines standing like emeralds. His beauty stands alone, unmatched in the world. When we once rode together in the same carriage, I often experienced the sensation of having fruit thrown at me until the carriage was filled. Wei Ling's flamboyance mirrored his very nature. Amid the crowd, clad in white, he approached me, fan in hand, his smile as radiant as the moon. Miss Chin, would you join my team for the autumn hunt? Before I could answer, a surge of noise erupted. A young general in a deep blue, form-fitting uniform, radiating vigor, pushed through the crowd toward me. Miss Chin, join my team. I'll lead you to victory. Yen Sun extended his olive branch. Just as I stood stunned, the moonlit calm magistrate Pei appeared before me, his presence as serene as a breeze. Miss Chin, this official is quite skilled in mounted archery. Might I join your team? Before I could speak, a hand suddenly seized my arm and yanked me behind someone. Prince Wei, General Yen, Magistrate Pini cousin needs only my company. No need for your concern. Songlan surveyed the group, his face bearing a smile, yet his gaze was as cold as solid ice. Upon seeing Songlan, everyone present bowed in unison. Your Royal Highness, the Crown Prince. Songlan pulled me to a secluded spot. He stared at me intently, his expression thick with anger. Is this what makes you happy? From now on, keep your distance from them. You're too trusting. You wouldn't even know if you were being deceived. If the autumn hunt requires teams, I'll take you with me. You'll just have to follow along obediently. How could anyone be so domineering and forceful? Like a coercive sail, I retorted angrily. Your Highness, I'm afraid I cannot join your team. I already made arrangements with General Yen to be on his team. Truthfully, I had already made arrangements with General Yen. With his skill in mounted archery, victory is assured. Moreover, this autumn hunt harbors grave dangers. A great upheaval is imminent. By staying with Yen Sun, I can act according to the situation. A timely warning might prevent the emperor from being assassinated and avert this catastrophe. Repeat that. Song Lan stared at me, his gaze dark and intense. Suddenly, he let out a cold laugh. Qin Wenyu, do you know how dangerous this autumn hunt will be? He held me tightly against his chest, not allowing me to struggle. Qin Wenyu, I warn you, from this moment on, you are not to leave my side for even a moment. Song Lan demanded I follow him everywhere. How could I possibly agree to that? At the bonfire banquet, I slipped over to Yen Sun and whispered that assassins might be among the guests. I urged him to deploy extra guards and keep a close watch. In my previous life, I hadn't participated in this autumn hunt. I only knew the emperor had been fatally wounded by an arrow. But I had no idea when or how the incident had unfolded. I could only guess blindly. Across the grassy field, bonfires blazed brightly. Tables stretched in a line as guests drank wine, feasted on meat, clinked cups, and admired the graceful dances, all in carefree revelry. Yet danger was already creeping in. I sat beside my aunt, the emperor mere inches away. One moment, His Majesty was cheerfully inquiring about my recent interactions with Song Lan. The next, several sharp arrows flew out, heading straight for the emperor's face. This sudden turn of events caught everyone completely off guard. The emperor froze in shock, unable to dodge in time. Without a second thought, I lunged forward to push him aside. Watch out! But the one I pushed away wasn't the emperor, because someone had stepped in front of him. But the one I pushed aside was not His Majesty. It was Song Lan. In an instant, the arrows tore through the air, piercing my back with a sharp thud. They sank into my flesh. Blood gushed out, the pain nearly knocking me unconscious. "Ah you. Ah you." I collapsed into Song Lan's arms. His eyes were bloodshot, his body trembling as he called my name over and over. "Why must you be so foolish?" His voice choked with sobs as he clutched me tightly. Tears rolled down his cheeks. His gaze shattered. "Hold on. Don't close your eyes. They'll take you to a physician at once. You want die. You absolutely want." He told me to hold on, but I couldn't. My eyelids grew too heavy. Before closing them, I wanted to say one thing. "Song Lan, why did you rush out? You nearly killed me." The words reached my lips, but I had no strength left. Unable to utter a single syllable, pain spread through me, and darkness engulfed my vision, leaving only deathly silence. When I awoke again, the capital had changed overnight. His Majesty had indeed passed away. The city was draped in mourning, and Song Lan, summoned in the hour of crisis, ascended the throne as the new emperor. He purged the rebel faction and crushed the remnant forces. The court's factions were deeply entrenched, their intertwined interests unfathomable. A sweeping reshuffle was urgently needed to replace the old with the new. But that arrow clearly didn't strike His Majesty. Why did he die? My health had improved somewhat when my aunt came to visit. I asked her. His Majesty suddenly vomited blood and died suddenly after being escorted back to the imperial retreat. The imperial physician said it was likely poison soup or medicine. So that was it. In my previous life, everyone believed His Majesty had died from the arrow wound. Who could have imagined he was poisoned instead? Was it determined who administered the poison? I pressed further. My aunt uttered a name that stunned me. The newly crowned top scholar. Pei Qi. He must have colluded with the rebels. But when we sent men to arrest him, he had already taken his own life at home, leaving behind a blood-stained letter. I stared at my aunt in utter shock, unable to believe it. How? How could it be Magistrate Pei Chi had already committed suicide out of fear of punishment. I know you knew him. I brought that blood-stained letter. Would you like to see it? My aunt ordered someone to present the letter. The words, written in blood on white silk, were harrowing. Each character seeming to weep blood. Orphaned young. My life was bleak. My grandmother raised me through hardship. On her deathbed, she revealed the truth. 71 members of the Pei family perished unjustly. Their deaths shrouded in sorrow all because a cryptic poem offended the emperor. It turned out that though Pei Chi was a rising star in the court, he had long since joined the rebel faction. His pursuit of the imperial examinations and his role as the emperor's protege were all driven by a single purpose: vengeance. How truly tragic. Seeing my reddened eyes, my aunt urged me to rest early and not dwell on these matters. She then departed to attend to the palace affairs. I knew she felt no affection for His Majesty. She had entered the palace for the sake of her family, with so many women in the emperor's harem, each younger and more beautiful than her. She lived a lonely and desolate life as empress. Her only child was not her own flesh and blood, but belonged to another. Watching her retreating figure beyond the palace gates, I was suddenly overcome by a profound sense of desolation. Just as in my previous life, the palace walls stood tall and imposing, yet within them, people were as fleeting as shadow snow companions. No understanding. After my aunt departed, Song Lan arrived. His blood-stained armor still clung to him, clanking with each step. He removed his red-plumed helmet and tossed it to a maid beside him. Striding directly toward me, he was travel-worn, his hair disheveled, traces of blood still staining his face, clearly returning from suppressing a rebellion. He sat beside my bed, took my hand, and pressed it to his cheek. His gaze was tender, his voice gentle. "Ayu, you're awake. Are you feeling unwell anywhere? Shall I summon the imperial physician again?" I shook my head gently, quietly withdrawing my hand. "Your Highness, no. I should say Your Majesty. I find staying in the palace rather inconvenient. Your Majesty, please order someone to escort me back to my residence." Song Lan looked slightly displeased. "The moment I return, you wish to leave. Do you not know I journeyed here day and night without rest? Driven solely by my concern for you." The grand eunuch behind him chimed in. "Indeed, Miss Qin." Upon returning to the palace, His Majesty went nowhere else and saw no one but came straight to you. His desire to see how you fared speaks to his deep worry. I know. He remembers my life-saving favor. But that was mere chance. Not my true intent. The one I truly sought to save was the late Emperor. Your Majesty. You misunderstand. I originally. Hypocrite. Yet whatever I said now, Song Lan would not believe. He cut me off, his voice carrying an unprecedented tenderness. The grand eunuch chimed in. Indeed, Miss Qin, all in the capital know you cherish His Majesty more than your own life always have. And even more so now. Nonsense. Song Lan shot him a glance. Though his gaze lacked its usual sharpness, he turned back to me, his eyes brimming with affection as he murmured softly. It seems you find the scent on my body unpleasant. Very well. I shall bathe first and return to see you later. Song Lan had completely misunderstood. Yet keeping me confined in the palace under such ambiguous circumstances was utterly improper and would invite gossip. Whenever I suggested leaving, he found excuses to keep me, even after my injuries healed. He wouldn't let me return home. The world is dangerous now. Once all matters are settled, I shall release you from the palace. But I was returning to the Chancellor's residence, not sleeping on the streets. What danger could there be? Thus, Song Lan had me placed in a side hall without explanation. My aunt said he intended to marry me and crown me empress. For the entire Qin family, this was a tremendous blessing. Yet I couldn't muster a single shred of joy. Could it be that in this life, I was still destined to remain trapped within these palace walls? To watch Song Lan marry one woman after another, growing lonely and desolate, wasting away my life. I refuse. I absolutely cannot marry Song Lan. The turning point came during a palace banquet. At the feast, my aunt requested a favor for me from Song Lan. That day at the hunting grounds, "You saved your majesty, Emperor. Those who serve with merit deserve reward." Everyone present saw through my aunt's intentions. Now that she was Empress Dowager, she naturally sought to bring the Qin family into the harem to consolidate her power. Whether this scheme would succeed depended entirely on His Majesty's will. In my previous life, though Song Lan appeared compliant, he inwardly despised my aunt's scheming. He loathed factionalism and favoritism above all else. Yet, out of gratitude for her nurturing and upbringing, and to preserve appearances of filial piety, he turned a blind eye. I expected Song Lan to hesitate at least for a moment, but unexpectedly, he agreed without a second thought. Approved. Seated upon the high throne, Song Lan's features were clear and open, clad in a deep black robe, each shoulder adorned with a silver thread-coiled dragon. He sat with an air of lofty dignity. His hand lightly twirled the jade cup, already radiating the aura and authority of an emperor. "Qin family maiden, what favor do you seek?" The moment the words left his lips, every gaze in the hall turned to me. They must have assumed I would beg to enter the palace. Even Song Lan upon the dragon throne surely thought so. After all, my aunt's meaning was clear, compounded by my past actions, which had consistently demonstrated my deep affection for Song Lan. Under such intense scrutiny, I felt like a fish out of water, trapped between a rock and a hard place. I steeled myself, rose to my feet, and slowly approached the center of the hall. Before the figure seated upon the high throne, I bowed deeply. "Your humble servant." I took a deep breath, thinking to myself, "They'll just go for it." My words rang out loud and clear, each syllable distinct. "Your Majesty, this humble maiden begs you to grant her a marriage decree." The moment the words fell, the atmosphere froze, still enough to hear a pin drop. In the deafening silence, a sudden crack echoed in my ears. Slowly lifting my gaze, I met the piercing stare of Song Lan, who sat high above. His eyes burned with malevolence. The jade cup in his hand lay shattered, blood trickling freely through his fingers, a sight so horrifying it sent a chill down the spine. The entire hall fell deathly silent. Everyone sensed the Emperor's thunderous fury, gasping in shock, holding their breath in terror. I too was deeply shaken, lowering my head, unable to meet his piercing glare. It was merely a request for a royal marriage. Who could have imagined Song Lan would fly into such a rage, losing his composure in public? "May every year bring peace and safety, my son. Let your mother see your hand." My aunt, seeing the situation escalate beyond control, hurriedly tried to smooth things over. The chief eunuch behind Song Lan also stepped forward. "Your Majesty, is your hand badly injured? Should we summon the imperial physician?" "It is unnecessary." Song Lan gradually calmed down, allowing the Empress Dowager beside him to bandage his wound with a silk handkerchief. His expression stern, he fixed me with a heavy gaze. "Qin family's daughter. Matters of marriage must heed the counsel of parents and elders. I alone cannot decide for you. This matter requires the approval of the Empress Dowager and the Chancellor." He had passed the responsibility to his aunt and father. Father stepped forward, bowed to Song Lan, and spoke plainly. "Your Majesty, this old minister believes that my daughter in Yen." Before he could finish, my aunt cut him off. "Marriage is no trivial matter. It cannot be decided on a whim. Yue is still young. She will have time to observe and choose a suitable match in due course. Only then should His Majesty be called upon to grant the marriage decree. That is the proper way." My aunt shot my father a sharp glance, silencing him. Now I saw clearly. Everyone harbored their own selfish motives. Only father truly cherished me. He knew that with Pei Qi executed, Yen Sun was my best match. Song Lan had never been his choice. After the palace banquet, I intended to return home with father. But palace attendants stopped me, forcing me off the carriage. Father watched me anxiously. I flashed him a reassuring smile. Father, it's fine. They'll stay just 2 more days. 2 days. Then I'll return. Father's eyes reddened. It's my failure. I couldn't protect you. Just then, my aunt arrived. Fury rolled across her face as she flung her sleeve dramatically. Enough. Who are you putting on this show of filial devotion for? How selfish you both are. Have you considered the future of the Qin family? For the first time, father stood his ground against his sister. You know full well the emperor's heart is cold and the palace is heartless. How can you bear to drag Yue into this? If Yue must enter the palace, it would be better to let her marry a commoner. I will support her for the rest of her life. I see you've truly grown senile. My aunt glared at father, her face filled with disappointment. I turned and walked away, unwilling to put father in such a difficult position. Aunt pursued me all the way to Ilan Hall, pleading earnestly, Yue, there must be limits to your outbursts. What if your cousin is disheartened by your reckless behavior in the palace today? Aunt, you know I've loved my cousin since childhood. Don't you? Now he feels the same for you. You're mutually devoted. What more could you want? Seize this chance, and the Empress throne will be yours for the taking. Her heart was forever set on that Empress throne. Overwhelmed by grief and fury, I snapped back at her. Auntie, I don't want to marry him. She froze in shock. Suddenly, a clear, resonant voice cut through the air. Then who do you wish to marry? Before I could react, he strode purposefully before me. Yan Sun, or Wei Ling, or are you still pining for that dead Pei Qi? Song Lan closed in on me, his gaze sharp as blades, a cold smile playing at his lips clearly. He was truly enraged. I had nowhere to turn for help. My aunt had already left the moment Song Lan arrived. Whom I marry is my own affair. It has nothing to do with your majesty. My defiance only fueled his fury. He seized my wrist and pinned me against the wall. Unrelated to this emperor, he sneered. Then why did you publicly beg me to grant you a marriage decree today? Your majesty confined me here without explanation. I argued. I had to find a way to escape. He stared at me, a mocking curve on his lips. Your escape plan is to marry someone. Yes. Then why won't you marry me? Song Lan's eyes darkened. He seized my hands, pinning them above my head, then leaned in to kiss me. The sharp scent of alcohol hit me. He must have drunk heavily tonight. I struggled desperately, biting him hard. Crimson blood welled from his lip as I spat out. I'd marry anyone but you. Why? He winced, his gaze fixed on me, dark and intense. Have you truly developed feelings for that Yan Sun? I couldn't bear the pretense any longer. I might as well be honest. So what if I have? Song Lan's rage boiled over, his jade-white face contorting into a feral grimace. Do you believe me when I say I'll draw my sword and kill him tomorrow? Fearing he might truly lose his mind, I cried out. Don't. He swept me up in his arms, tossing me onto the bed. Before I could flee, he pinned me down. If you want Yan Sun to live, please me. Despicable. Shame and fury surged through me, yet I was powerless. Memories of past humiliations flooded my mind, my eyes suddenly stinging. Tears rolled down my cheeks unbidden. Seeing my tears, Song Lan's eyes flickered with pain. He wiped them away, his voice softening. Why are you crying? My tears flowed more freely as grievances welled up. You're bullying me. Song Lan pulled me into his embrace, soothing me with a gentle voice. How could I be bullying you? I love you. I want you to be my empress. I just don't understand. You used to adore me so much. Why are you so cold toward me now? Have I done something wrong? Ayu. If there's anything I've done poorly, you can tell me. I'll change. Okay. Song Lan held me close, soothing me all night long. He confessed that his past coldness toward me stemmed from mistaking me for someone like my aunt. Scheming and calculating. But now he knew my true nature. Realizing I wasn't the kind of woman had once thought me to be. I was sincere and kind-hearted. A truly excellent young woman. Therefore, he cherished me and wanted me to be his empress. I couldn't make sense of it. My heart was filled with bitterness and grievance, and I couldn't find any relief. Song Lan was busy with official duties, yet he made time every day to be with me, sharing meals, sleep, and lodging. I knew this couldn't go on forever. Rumors would inevitably spread far and wide. By then, even if I no longer wished to marry Song Lan, I would have no choice but to do so. ID considered escape. Several times ID stolen a token, changed into palace maid's clothes, and tried to slip out. But before I reached the gates, Song Lan would rush in and catch me red-handed. Torchlight illuminated his jade-like face, making it glow. I stumbled backward, only to find my path blocked. His narrow, phoenix-like eyes narrowed slightly as he leaned in close. Ew. Where do you think you're running off to? When he once again hoisted me back into the palace chambers and tossed me onto the bed, my fury boiled over. Song Lan, what exactly do you want from me before you'll let me go? Release you. His slender fingers gently lifted my chin as he uttered 3 words. Impossible. Whatever you desire, this emperor shall grant. But release. Never. He seized my ankle, fastening a silver chain around it, then kissed it as if staking his claim. You belong to me, Song Lan. You've lost your mind. Shame washed over me, my face burning. He slept fully clothed beside me, embracing me from behind. His warm breath tickled my ear, making my cheeks flush involuntarily. Speak. You. What do you wish to do? I shall accompany you. The words slipped out before I could stop them. Horseback riding, archery, exploring mountains and rivers. With the new emperor's ascension, countless duties weighed upon him. He surely couldn't accompany me. My words were meant to challenge him, yet without hesitation, he agreed. Very well. Tomorrow, I shall take you out of the palace to ride horses, gaze upon mountains, and observe waters. These past days, Song Lan and I have shared the same bed. Every night, I dream of him. These dreams are of my past life, so vivid they defy belief. In the hall of cultivating the heart, the emperor bestowed titles upon the 6 palaces. All the consorts gathered, awaiting their rewards, each beaming with joy. I stood in a corner, feeling utterly forlorn. For while Song Lan bestowed honors upon the 6 palaces, he gave not a single gift to me. The Empress, not even a word of praise. We thank your majesty for his gracious favor. After receiving their rewards, the others dispersed. I walked last, hearing their mocking whispers behind me, my heart aching with unspeakable bitterness. See. I told you so. That Empress is just an empty shell. The Emperor doesn't have a shred of affection for her. Rumor has it the Empress was forced upon him by the Empress Dowager. No wonder he dislikes her. The sky darkened, and a fine drizzle began to fall. I stumbled down the stone steps, nearly falling. A hand reached out behind me to steady me, but withdrew moments later. It was Song Lan. He stood beneath the eaves, watching my retreating figure. The chief eunuch beside him cautiously inquired, Your Majesty, did you forget to bestow a reward upon Her Majesty the Empress today? The time is not yet right. Song Lan replied indifferently. The chief eunuch continued, But by acting thus, Your Majesty publicly humiliates Her Majesty the Empress. How deeply wounded must her heart be? Song Lan clenched his fist within his sleeve. I know. Yet with the aristocratic clans still unchecked, and she occupying such a lofty position, everyone schemes to replace her. The better I treat her, the greater the danger she faces. Only by acting thus can I protect her. Soon, in a few more years, I shall purge the realm of all corruption and safeguard her happiness for a lifetime. The emperor's words drifted away into the vast, falling mist and rain. The next day, Song Lan indeed set aside the affairs of the previous court and accompanied me outside the palace for recreation. Keeping his promise, he took me to the city outskirts for horseback riding and archery. Holding me from behind, he drew the bowstring for me. His lips brushed my ear, damp and warm. As he murmured, "What do you think? My horsemanship and archery skills are no less than Yen Sun's, are they?" He still remembered Yen Sun teaching me to ride and shoot. I scolded him for being petty. The bowstring snapped taut, and the arrow flew, accompanied by the sharp clatter of feathers. It struck the bullseye dead center. I had to admit, Song Lan's horsemanship and archery were truly impressive. We enjoyed ourselves immensely that day. Come nightfall, Song Lan and I stayed overnight at a farmer's house instead of returning to the palace. He held me close once more as sleep overtook us. In my dreams, I revisited memories of my past life. In the Buddhist hall, the young emperor knelt upon a straw mat, gently rolling sandalwood beads between his fingers. He bowed reverently before the bodhisattva, murmuring prayers as if making a solemn vow. Behind him, the chief eunuch cautiously inquired, "Your Majesty, we hear the Empress has been unwell these past days. Would you like to visit her?" The emperor kept his eyes closed, silent for a long while. His grip on the sandalwood beads tightened before he replied, "I shall not go. When I return from the southwest and the realm is stabilized, I will explain everything to her and begin anew." He rose and slowly walked out of the hall. In the slanting wind and drizzle, fallen leaves drifted about. His retreating figure radiated a profound solitude. Then, the scene shifted to a battlefield shrouded in swirling yellow sand. War horses neighed, trumpets blared, and the air thickened with the stench of blood and death. Corpses littered the ground. The emperor led his troops into battle himself, charging through the rebel ranks. His body covered in wounds, blood-stained. I heard him fall, calling my name, "Ayu, Song Lan." I jolted awake from the dream, tears soaking the pillow. If those dreams were real, did Song Lan and I miss out on too much in my past life? I remember I died of illness before he returned from the southwestern front. So did Song Lan ultimately pacify the southwest and return alive from the battlefield? I have no way of knowing. What was it he wanted to explain to me before he left? My mind was in utter turmoil. Song Lan beside me seemed to sense my restlessness. He drew me into his embrace, his chin resting on my forehead as we clung to each other. His murmurs soft and steady. "Ah you, ah you." Moonlight streamed through the lattice window, bathing his handsome features in serene, tranquil light. I gently pushed his hand away. Tonight, I intended to leave. I had begged Song Lan to stay outside the palace precisely so I could slip away in the dead of night and return to the Prime Minister's residence. After all, as long as I didn't step outside the main gate, Song Lan couldn't possibly come to the residence openly to take me away. So I tiptoed off the bed, unlocked the door, and slipped out, deep into the night. The guards outside the gate had finally dozed off. Everything was going smoothly. Guided by starlight, I hurried toward the city center, but my relief was short-lived. Suddenly, someone attacked from behind, a large hand clamping over my mouth and nose. A strange, intoxicating scent filled my nostrils, and my head began to spin. Suddenly, darkness engulfed my vision, and I slipped into unconsciousness. When I awoke again, I found myself bound to a large tree at the edge of a sheer cliff. My captor, his face concealed by a black hood, remained unrecognizable. He shouted at a man approaching slowly from a distance, "You dog of an emperor, if you want this woman back, pay with your life." My thoughts gradually cleared, and I finally realized the man approaching wasn't a stranger. It was Song Lan. He held a long sword, his face dark with murderous intent, the blade pointed directly at the masked man. "Release you." He glanced at me, bound and hanging from the tree, his eyes filled with pain. The masked man laughed. "Seems I didn't kidnap the wrong person. She truly is the apple of your eye. He aimed his blade at the ropes binding my wrists and warned Songlan, "Drop your sword, or I'll sever the ropes and shatter your beloved woman to pieces." Without hesitation, Songlan flung his sword to the ground. "Release her. I'll go with you." I watched Songlan, unarmed, step closer and closer to the assassin. The blade's edge inched toward him, and I feared he would meet his end here. In my panic, I screamed, "Don't!" But it was too late. The hidden dart in the assassin's sleeve had already flown, aimed straight for Songlan's heart. Whoosh! At that very moment, an archer concealed in the woods released an arrow. It streaked toward the assassin's face, striking his forehead in a flash. Blood gushed forth. The assassin slowly collapsed, but falling alongside him was another Songlan. Crimson blood soaked through his white robes. He looked in my direction before finally collapsing, his strength spent. With his dying breath, the assassin spat blood and growled, "Going down with you, you dog of an emperor. I've got nothing to lose." Rescued from the tree, I raced to Songlan's side, tears already blurring my vision. "It's my fault. All my fault." I clung to him, sobbing uncontrollably. Blood trickled from the corner of his mouth, his breath faint as a thread, yet he still raised his hand to wipe the tears from my face. "Fool. I came here of my own accord. What does it have to do with you?" Tears poured down my face like rain, my body trembling uncontrollably. Fear washed over me as I pleaded, "Songlan, please don't die. If you don't die, I'll agree to marry you. I'll be your empress." Okay. The masked assassin, a remnant of the rebel faction, was executed on the spot, but Songlan remained unconscious. The imperial physician said his heart meridian was severed. Whether he would awaken depended on fate. I kept vigil by his side day after day, never leaving his side. By day, I sat at his bedside, recounting tales of our past lives. I told him that avoiding him in this lifetime had its reasons after all. He had treated me poorly in our previous existence. Yet as I spoke, tears would fall. "Songlan, please wake up. I forgive you. If you wake, we can start anew. I promise to marry you. Shall I be your empress?" These nights, as I kept vigil, sharing his bed, I dreamt of our past lives ending. He returned from the battlefield, scarred and wounded, only to learn I had died of illness in the palace. Before the memorial hall, he went mad, ordering men to open the coffin and carry me out. He sealed the palace gates, guarding my corpse day and night, speaking nonsense. No one could persuade him. He spoke of the past, of his anguish, his regrets, his mistakes. He said he had never loved another, never touched another, loved only me. But he was wrong, hadn't told me sooner. He confessed his sins to me, yet I could not awaken. Tears of blood streamed from his eyes, soaking my face. Within mere days, his jet black hair turned entirely white. Finally, one day, my aunt summoned a Taoist priest. He claimed to possess a secret art to revive the dead, but this art demanded half a lifetime's lifespan as payment. I watched as he cut his wrist without hesitation, using his blood to light the eternal lamp inscribed with talismanic script. And upon that eternal lamp, my name was written. Day after day, I prayed before the gods and Buddhas, hoping my beloved would awaken soon. On this particular day, I went as usual to the Buddhist hall to pray for Songlan. Kneeling before the meditation mat, I made my wish with deep devotion. May the Bodhisattva grant my wish that my Lan may awaken soon. My palms pressed together, I murmured, "If the Bodhisattva fulfills this devotee's prayer, I vow." Before I could finish, a voice behind me abruptly cut me off. "Chu, my dear, say no more." That voice was utterly familiar, yet etched into my very soul. A single pearl of tears rolled unbidden down my cheek. I turned and saw the one I had longed for day and night. He wore plain robes, his complexion pale and visibly frail. Clearly he had come to find me immediately after waking. "You're finally awake," I rose and threw myself into his arms. My throat constricted with sobs. Tears streamed down my cheeks. Unstoppable. A pair of arms wrapped around me. Song Lan, still weak from his recent illness, leaned against me and smiled. "Ah, you. What did you just call me before the Buddha?" "Ah, Lan." The words slipped out, my face already burning crimson. Song Lan's eyes held deep affection as he gently kissed my forehead. "Good. I like that name very much. Ah, you. From now on, you shall call me thus." I nodded. Then he said solemnly, "Ah, you. These past days, I heard every word you whispered in my ear. I was stunned. I remember everything from our past life." He clasped my hand tightly, his eyes glistening with emotion as he declared, "In the end, it is I who owe you so much. Then in this life, let me make amends. Shall we, Empress?" He gazed at me earnestly, his eyes brimming with 1,000 emotions. "Who said I'd be your Empress?" His stare made my cheeks burn. I pulled my hand away and turned my back to him. He embraced me from behind, whispering softly in my ear, "I remember well. These past days, someone whispered in my ear 76 times that once I awoke, you would marry me and be my Empress." He smiled faintly, a soft breath escaping his throat. My cheeks flushed scarlet. I turned my head and pouted. "You scoundrel." But he silenced me with a kiss, his arms tightening around my waist as we pressed together. "Ah, you. In this lifetime, I will never part from you again. Not just this lifetime. For all lifetimes. Forever and ever." The end.